Hello and welcome to FeVR Dreams Podcast Season 2, Episode 4, which is also the total episode number 10. This is a live recording which we are doing on the 2nd of May in 2021. And with me, I'm your host, Corm78, is my co-host, Grindash. Welcome.
Hello, not Cypher Orion this week.
Sorry. That is changed and is alternating. But we have a special guest today from LIV, and we all know LIV because we are all VR streamers. And today we have Ru with us. Hello, Ru.
Yay.
Welcome.
Hello.
And I'd like to start the podcast with what we've been playing in the last 2 weeks since the last podcast, because the show is a fortnightly show. Is that correctly worded? So every 2 weeks we are recording this. And yeah, we are playing stuff. So I'd like to know what you guys have been playing. And why not? Let's start with our guest, Ru. Let me know what you've been playing in the last 2 weeks. It must not be only VR, but I'd like to know what games and what has been special about them.
Only two new ones. Oh, well, it's not technically the last 2 weeks, but I've been playing it in the last 2 weeks. It's not new in the last 2 weeks. I've got three. An indie rhythm action game called Unbeatable, which is Pancake. It's a 2D, like, notes come in from the sides. You basically beat up baddies to music. It's like an anime punk Japanese style where music is illegal and you do crimes. The Kickstarter for it is... Yeah, it's really blown up. The development team are really awesome. The game is really well implemented, and there's a demo that you can get. So, like, go play it. It's really fun.
And it's Pancake, you said?
It's Pancake, yeah, it's 2D.
Interesting. Okay.
Highly recommend it. If you like rhythm games and you like anime-inspired stuff, you'll really dig it.
Cool.
They've got, like, a story and a campaign planned and everything, but it happens to be a really competent rhythm game. It's called Unbeatable, sorry.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, he called. Yeah.
Is that on Steam already, the demo?
I don't think the demo's on Steam. I think it's on itch.io.
Okay. Okay, good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this one,
And then the other game I wanted to mention is Against. Everybody's played the demo, I think, so far. Really, really promising. I'm excited for it.
That's the one where they try to mix from different games the unique mechanics into one, where you shoot and slash and jump or so. I just have seen the demo so far. I haven't tried it myself yet.
It's
okay.
Well,
it's like the John Woo of rhythm games. We thought Pistol Whip was it, but this is actually, you know. Okay. Yeah, Crin, what have you been playing? Was that game among them? I too put some time into Against. Sadly, the demo is way too short. The hard version of the map is just hard enough that it'll take you a few runs to get through, most likely. But we need more. Yeah,
hopefully, I mean, it's a demo
soon, right?
A demo should tease, and if it's doing that well,
more than a tease. It feels great though. It really does. There are these parkour sections where you kind of get hyped when it's got you swing into the sides to jump up on the sides of these semis and run along, and you're shooting the dudes, poking their heads out of the cars and dodging walls, running up on other. It's exciting. So Pancake game I've been spending way too much time in is still Outriders. I have mixed opinions on the game. Most of them I'm going to keep to myself. I've put over 100 hours into it, so that should say enough.
I mean, it would be a well-made opinion then, if you disagree with some mechanics, but yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is, some of the mechanics changes they've been making, and there's definitely been stealth nerfing that they haven't been putting into their build notes, which they're intentionally keeping some of the mechanics of the game vague, and I'm not a fan of that. They've given us a game where everybody is trying to min-max their character's potential, and they make it a little bit difficult to do that accurately. But otherwise, gameplay, like server issues aside, I haven't suffered any of the major server issues. I haven't lost any characters. I haven't lost items off of characters or anything.
Yeah, I heard about those issues.
Man, that kind of stuff would stop me dead in my tracks. I wouldn't play the game anymore if it happened to me.
I mean, it's a looter shooter, right? So it's meant to grind stuff, and then losing inventory, that's a showstopper somehow.
Exactly. But yeah, overall, it's a good game if you don't mind wasting a lot of your time.
There's also a demo available, right? And the demo contains like 3 hours of gameplay, so it's not that little. Easily, and it was designed so that you can grind up your gear at the end of the demo too, and kind of experience the intent behind the loot system. Okay. So, if it's your style game, if you like Destiny, if you like Gears of War, go for it. All right. So my games have been, because I'm still recovering a little bit and need to get my stamina back and stuff, so I've not been playing that much VR. Last Sunday, a little bit of Beat Saber. So I have not tried the new update yet, which just released 2 days ago. Or was it 2 days ago? And just today, we've been playing a little bit of Tower Tech again in VR. For Pancake, I've been still playing a lot of Death Stranding. And Death Stranding is such a great game. I can't emphasize that. Even though people are still like making fun of it as the delivery simulator. Yes, you are delivering a lot of stuff. That's correct. But the story around that is so well done. It's incredible. I didn't expect it that I get so caught in the story and stuff. It's so amazing. I can't stop. And I have already put like 50 hours into it. And I have only played the first 3 chapters out of at least 10. So I don't know how much time that will still cost my life. But it's a lot of fun. And
I need to pick a copy of it up.
Yeah, totally. It's, at the moment, there is the, what is that, Golden Week sale going on? And I think it's on sale right now.
US right now?
Yeah, I think it's on sale right now. And the other game I've been playing, because I'm a big fan of Everspace, and Everspace 2 is in early access right now, and the April update just dropped. So I started to wipe my save game. They meant, the developer said, you don't have to. They are not forcing you to wipe it. But there are some triggers inside that might not be triggered at that point where you are in the story right now. So you might miss out on some things. And that's why I thought, okay, I love this game anyway. I'm a Kickstarter backer of it. And this is also the first game where I really get everything to see from closed beta, closed alpha to early access and see each iteration and playing that a lot. So who is ever into space games? It's more the arcadey space game, so it's played like a shooter. It's not the simulation style game where you would steer it with the HOTAS. You can do that, but it's meant to be played with keyboard and mouse. And it's in early access right now. So this is the first game where I experience everything that the Kickstarter campaign has to offer from all the stages and seeing all the little tweaks and advantages and content updates live. That's so cool. That's very, very cool. I love that a lot. So my recommendation for Everspace 2 and Death Stranding. Yeah. So that has been the recap of the games we played. Let's just shortly have also mentioned that the FeVR awards are now closed. So I hope you all got your votes in. And I think details are now being worked on when the nomination show will be, right?
Yep, the awards show should be, I think the original plan was later this month, like the 25th. Mm-hmm. And the intent is to get a number of creators involved and have a several-hour-long show and give away some absolutely beautiful awards to the community. Should be a good time. We're supposed to be meeting later today to work out some more details. I know a number of you are watching and listening right now, so be at the meeting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so that's part of the FeVR community news. VR gaming news, I don't know, I didn't see that much. I just mentioned that already earlier. The Beat Saber update dropped 1.15.0, which also marks 3 years, of Beat Saber.
What is this?
3 years of Beat Saber.
3 years.
And we all know Beat Saber wouldn't have been that successful without mods, even though the devs, yeah, it's a little bit tricky because devs are not that happy about mods. Sometimes it depends. But I guess the modding community totally has made Beat Saber unique. And I think this is also the perfect segue to how to present Beat Saber. And Beat Saber is a VR game, and presenting VR games, I mean, we all know you cannot convince somebody how cool VR is if that said person has not played VR yet. You can be all hyped about VR and tell everything how cool it is, but still, if you haven't experienced it yourself, you can't transport that on like a screen. And the best thing we can get to transport that feeling is being in the game and showing how we are in the game. And that's done with mixed reality. And we all know, without LIV, there would be not much mixed reality in VR games. So that's the first question. How did LIV get into Beat Saber like that?
That is a surprisingly tame story. I guess when LIV was starting out, right, we were working on the hardware green cube that existed. I saw that. I was brought into the team to bring my software into that and basically make this like whole package where you have a cube and a compositing solution alongside it. And eventually we decided to switch over to just software only. And along the way, we picked up a developer by the name Yaroslav, or Mystery. You'll sometimes see him in the LIV Discord. He's the person that created our camera calibration process way back. So like the 3-point triangle calibration that you do to set up your camera, that's his work. And in the past, here in the Czech Republic, he's actually worked with Jan on other projects. So they actually have a close relationship, and that's how we got the connection to get into Beat Saber. Oh. So effectively, we got to fangirl over email to Jan about like, hey, your trailer looks amazing. We think your rhythm game looks really cool. Can we try it? Can we try doing mixed reality with it? And we kind of just did it naturally from there. So like we did like 2 mixed reality tests. And then like the second one was Swan's like crazy viral video that just exploded nearly overnight. And that was done very, very early. I think it was one of our first LIV SDK integrations, actually.
Oh, that's awesome. I know I reached out to Split82 is his name on Twitter, at least. And I was asking about other ways of mixed reality. And he said, yeah, they had something working in the beginning for themselves, but then they realized LIV is doing it so well that they stopped developing that, and LIV took over completely. So that's so awesome.
Right. Let me interrupt here real quick. I'm sorry. I did misspeak earlier, and Lifesavers chat kindly pointed this out. We're later this month. It's not the awards show. It's going to be voting for the awards starting.
Okay.
Important difference.
Just a small correction there.
Important distinction.
Okay. Right on.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
What I was going to say is, like that's kind of LIV's value in a lot of ways, right? Like as a developer, you can integrate all of this video compositing stuff yourself. You can have like video plugins streaming data into Unity, but then you are responsible for maintaining support for all of that. And it's hard and annoying because cameras are inconsistent and fragile. So like doing that stuff out of engine in a dedicated program just makes way more sense. Let somebody else do the work once and then have a thin layer between the two that makes them work and pass the responsibility to somebody else.
Okay. You just mentioned you started when you joined LIV working on the cube. So how did you get into LIV? What's your story there?
Well, so I never directly worked on the hardware, like the LIV cube, which was like a big green screen, like aluminium frame with fabric and lights built into a package. That's what LIV 6 and AJ were doing before I joined. Before I joined LIV, I was VR streaming and doing mixed reality compositing on my stream, like kind of before the software for any of this existed. I had seen the mixed reality videos that Fantastic Contraption had done and the Steam VR trailer in 2016. And I was like, yeah, I need to do this real time.
I have a small technical question there. I think did that get removed from SteamVR? Because I know there was a possibility to add a third controller, and then you would get this split setup for compositing on your own. But somehow that doesn't work anymore. Is that correct, or am I just?
It hasn't aged well, I think is the way I would put it. So the code is still there. It'll still try to activate, but more often than not, it actually causes issues. And that's not to dissuade anybody from using it. It's just more like you have to be careful when you use it, and it's not going to work automatically. Like back in the early days where Unity VR games were kind of a little bit more simplistic and implemented the same way for everybody. It works automatically without developers even knowing. So like every now and again, you get the opportunity to send a developer mixed reality footage, and they'd be like, "I didn't even know this was possible in my game."
Yeah.
But the problem exists with LIV, though. Very frequently, we're telling people, "Hey, you need to go visit their Discord and find out about their SDK and add their product to your product," because holy crap.
Indeed. So wow. That might be a misconception of some viewers, at least, or people who want to get into streaming and showing it the same way as all the others do it, and think, "Hey, why does this game not work? I have downloaded LIV and it's not connecting to the game or so." It's indeed something where the SDK of LIV has to be integrated into the game. And I think at the moment it's mostly meant to be used with Unity games. Is that correct?
Not quite, actually. We have an Unreal and a Unity SDK. In fact, literally next Tuesday, we're releasing a brand new version of the Unreal SDK, which fixes a ton of the issues that we had before. But our aim is to be completely cross-platform, regardless.
So on the topic of Unreal SDK support, there's rumblings of people messing with Unreal's ray tracing support in VR, shadows, reflections. How's that going to translate into composited mixed reality?
So it's unlikely. So there's a couple of points there. So the baseline capture, that will work fine. It will even be ray traced if it's enabled in Unreal. We use a component that captures using Unreal components, so it will look the same as it was intended in the headset. But if the question is more about will dynamic light and shadows affect the player or an avatar that you're using, that's something that we're actually still working on, and would work regardless of if it's ray traced or not. So right. Kind of two separate solutions there, if you know what I'm talking about.
Right. No, I wasn't driving towards that, but holy crap, I'm glad you're working on that. That's huge. I mean, I was very excited when the fake lighting SDK stuff started showing up. That's been a lot of fun to play with. You guys have had some really interesting stuff that you have teased over the years. And I was telling myself I wasn't going to bring it up, but man, Rue, April Fool's 2020. We got to talk about this because there was rumbling in the community and on your Discord and stuff as far back as I remember October 2019, where you guys were hinting at mixed reality accessories. And now it's been 13 months, man. Can you tell us something? Can you tell us anything?
Yeah, so I can tell you the original purpose of the April Fool's test, because it really was like a test for us. We were like, hey, we could probably do this thing. We could probably put an interactive cosmetic onto everybody, as long as they're logged in with Stream Account, we can make it work really well. And we wanted to see people using avatars, people using mixed reality. Does it just look good for everybody? Is this something that we could kind of just turn on and turn into a feature? And the test was a huge success. It worked amazingly everywhere. I don't think we had any issues with it. Since then, we've effectively decided that we've got other things that we need to do for the phase in life that we are as a company before we come back and give everybody the polished thing. So I guess what I'm saying is we haven't got concrete plans to turn cosmetics into a thing ASAP or anything like that. But we absolutely plan to open this stuff up. So for you to be able to add your own objects and things like that.
Yes.
I can't give you a timeline on that because we're currently hardcore focused on getting Quest supported across the board. But it's coming, and there's more where that came from too, with mixed reality cameras and some other cool things that we're playing with.
How fun.
Be patient. We have a lot of exciting things to happen in the next, honestly, the next year. It's going to be very exciting for LIV.
Now for a taste of things to come. Oh, speaking of, everybody watch Mortal Kombat yet?
I haven't.
What?
Oh, okay. I guess we can hold on that one then. New Mortal Kombat movie came out, a week ago? Absolutely wild if you haven't seen it yet. They did a great job with it, in my opinion. Like, if you're a fan of the video game series, tons of Easter eggs in there for you. The fights are beautiful, just downright gorgeous. And of course, the gore is completely over the top, but wow, they did a good job. And the cinematography is in a very Eastern style. So it's not like in the Western style where you'll see somebody throw a punch and then the camera cuts right after the impact. So you see the person going, huh, or like flying after they've taken a bullet or something like that. In this, it's all very, very violent. So you see everything happening in real time. It's an interesting ride.
No, I've not heard about that yet. Oh, cool. All right. I want to know more about things LIV. I mean, Beat Saber was, I think, one of the first games where the SDK was integrated. And where did the road go from there? I mean, it is now implemented in a lot of games, but there was always the first game. Which was the second?
The second game? That's a really hard question. Well, I think that is actually quite a hard question. Yeah.
Well, one of the next ones.
Sure. One of the next ones was definitely Synth Riders. That was like the next one that actually worked with us and then ended up, actually getting captured and things like that, like people actually using it. Synth Riders had the LIV SDK in from a very early point in its lifetime. Mm-hmm. I remember trying a very early version of it and being really, really excited. I think it was Synth Riders. But in terms of the growth, people saw the explosive growth of Beat Saber and they were like, I want in on this. It was a huge boon to the LIV SDK getting out there and being used. And I think it proved to a lot of developers what the power of a game that suits mixed reality can actually accomplish. Regular people can care about it. And that was powerful. Yeah.
Right. So is it like that you'd see new VR games and think this would be great for mixed reality and approach those developers? Or is it the other way around mostly? Or is it depending on the game?
Yeah, okay. It depends on the game for sure. I think some of the most popular games in our list we've reached out to, for example, I think both O-Shape and Pistol Whip, we got involved with and then asked for the SDK ourselves. And I think an equal number of developers who have made polished games have just integrated it themselves. There used to be a time when we would try and pitch to basically everything that would come out, but we started being a little bit more strategic with games that would look good in mixed reality and leaving it for developers to integrate themselves otherwise. That's an interesting question, actually, because it's very much mixed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm interested because there are certain types of games where it totally fits presenting those in mixed reality, especially those where you are moving in a straight direction more or less all the time. So you don't have to move the orientation where the player is looking. And this is those rhythm music games like Beat Saber, Synth Riders, Pistol Whip, O-Shape, Power Beats VR. There are several ones in the meantime. But there are also other games, but there the mixed reality integration is a little bit more tricky. What I'm thinking about is Half-Life Alyx, for example. Is it suitable for Half-Life Alyx to be presented in mixed reality?
Suitable has a lot of extra detail associated with it. I think if you look at what Half-Life as a series means to gaming culture, yes, it's absolutely suitable.
Right.
Half-Life and everything in that universe, Team Fortress 2 has been this like gigantic part of gaming culture and content creation for a really long time. So adding more tools and more hooks is often just like a very positive thing. People will use it for creative output because it's this IP that they love and have come to terms with being able to create content with. So like forget about, spectating a game and gameplay. That alone is a huge part of it. But if you're talking about suitability in terms of, what is a good spectator experience? Like what is it you want to see when somebody's playing Half-Life Alyx? I think in the current form of the LIV SDK with mixed reality and it being limited to a static angle, it's probably not the most ideal thing. You could probably make like a custom shooting range mod map and then capture that and have that be a good experience. But the baseline game, I think that needs a more choreographed spectator camera to really do it justice. Kind of along the same lines. Yeah.
Without specifically naming names, there are some games out there that I feel like are attempting LIV integration to support that kind of gameplay style. You've got a first-person shooter where the player can rotate 360 degrees. And not only that, but I tend to stream personally with a very wide FOV on my compositor, just because I like the viewers to be able to see more of everything that's happening. A lot of people, they'll have their compositor zoomed in real tight on them, and you get such a narrow field of view, you can't see what's happening over them, and you're missing a lot of the gameplay elements. And the idea when you're playing a first-person shooter, the camera being stuck behind you, where if you're actually rotating your character, you can kind of control the camera angle with that. And I did want to ask about that. What's the future of not just cinematic features that we can use when, say, recording a video for YouTube or something like that, but real-time features to be able to control those camera angles without having to, say, go back out to our calibration screen and adjust FOV from there? What are there future plans for that you can talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. So like one of the things that we want to get rid of is this distinction between what a camera can and cannot do, which is a bit of an abstract thing. So like I'll try and decorate it. If you imagine, have you seen LIV's integration with Blaston?
Blaston?
Yeah. So Blaston is this like, I'll quickly describe it. It's this competitive 1v1 game where you're shooting slow-moving bullets at each other. And you have to basically matrix dodge them and out of the way. Our integration with Blaston, we worked with the game devs to integrate like a choreographed avatar camera. So if you're using an avatar with LIV, the game will take control of it during gameplay. And like as the round is starting, you'll get like a 2-camera cut, like zoom in on the people who are playing. And then as you're moving around, it's like cutting between different angles and shots. Super cool. And it looks great. That kind of capability is something that we want to give to every camera, whether or not it's an avatar. Now, there are a lot of really interesting challenges with doing that, but it's on the roadmap, and the work required to get there is not so great. So like for us, it's something that we want to approach, and it's an item in the roadmap. It's kind of like we've proved that it can work. We have a couple of very interesting looking prototypes where we're folding a camera up.
Sorry. Real quick, is this something that you wanted to give streamers and creators the opportunity to be able to choreograph these scenes themselves going into it? Or are you guys going to leave that to developers to do that game side engine rather than compositor side?
Yeah, it will be opened up. In fact, it technically already is. Like the interface that you would use as a modder or somebody who's just interested already exists. Like the avatar camera plugin already exists as like a place to insert your code and do whatever you want. It's likely an evolved form of that will be how you control like your whole set of cameras. We are working on, I guess this is kind of an announcement, but don't think of it this way. We have an internal API called Pathfinder, which effectively exposes all of LIV's data to anything that's available. Our intent is to publish parts of that for you to be able to control it directly. And that will contain things like having a list of cameras, what camera is currently active, and kind of reducing the amount of friction it takes to control things. So you know how LIV has, and I guess I'm talking to the perfect audience for this. This is dope. I'm glad I get to talk about this. You know how LIV has URI scheme commands where you can do live : / set camera 0. You can change your camera.
We use it for multiple camera angles. Several of us do. Yeah.
Right. So like a couple of polish points with that, right? And which what I just talked about, Pathfinder will solve is it takes time for that command to execute. There's a program that boots up and then it sends a message to LIV and then it does the there's a whole thing. And then on top of that, because LIV only ever has one active camera, it doesn't keep your previous cameras loaded and ready to go. So your cuts are usually quite janky. They can introduce frame spikes and things like that. We will improve those things. But these are like relatively minor polish points that this new interface should facilitate. Some of us use overlay transitions to try and compensate for that delay. Is there any chance of that being integrated into the compositor? So we could throw something with a transparency effect in on that level? That's a great and very specific question. I think...
Sorry.
It's holes
like that.
No, I enjoy asking this stuff. You're going to have to bear in mind that maybe I'm making some of this up. This is not a commitment. But I can imagine we would at least like tell you if something is going to take longer to transition than intended. But my thinking is that if you intend on switching between multiple cameras, all of the resources related to all of those cameras should be ready to go so that there is no delay. Like the fact that there is a delay is the problem. I think we can fix that. As for transitions and things like that, one of the ideas that we have been kind of thrown around a bit is, so you know how some people will do a bunch of shots for their YouTube video where they'll rotate their play space without recalibrating their camera so they can get multiple different angles. Works really well. What if you could trigger that real time whilst you're playing on a stream? And then what actually happens is you get like a little countdown in your headset that tells you 3, 2, 1, now turn. It'll tell you where to look and it'll mask that with a transition. So like it will fade the camera out, you'll turn physically, and then when it fades back in, it's a different camera angle, but you've only actually got one camera.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So those are the kinds of things that we thought about.
All right, I have one more specific question I want to ambush you with. What kind of internal conversations have you guys had, if you can talk about it, on the concept of multi-compositor?
So multiple in-game cameras rendered.
If we've got multiple cameras set up, why can't we have multiple live compositors, right? Yeah. And I understand we're talking massive system overhead to get that working. Just the first compositor is a lot of extra grunt that you need. So have you guys experimented with this at all?
We haven't experimented with it, but we have a pretty good understanding of what the limitations are in terms of performance. So this is not a no. This is more of me trying to like give some context into why we haven't prioritized it. Because it's certainly possible and it's likely that we'll implement it at some point. But we also have, we're ambitious engineers. We want to do everything. So picking what we do is the hardest thing. Like picking what we don't do is the hardest thing. So the limitation that you have is that most game engines are not really built to render a shit ton of cameras at the same time. Every camera that you render, it is sending the entire geometry of the scene to the GPU. That cost doesn't scale well. So as each camera you add increases the overhead massively. And if the game or the engine is, only written to work well on, say, 2 threads, it can't use like a fully, it's not fully multi-threaded, is the wording I'm looking for. You'll hit that limit very quickly. In fact, whilst we were working with Population 1, that's actually something that we ran into. It's a high CPU cost of just resending all of the rendering commands again. So Population 1 actually only renders 1 camera, whereas LIV actually usually renders 2. If you're trying to do full mixed reality with multiple cameras, you're scaling by 2 cameras every time. So you might have your full MR view, that's 2 cameras, and then you've got an auxiliary view that you're rendering at the same time. Even if it's low resolution, that's still all the geometry again twice.
Interesting.
So it doesn't scale.
I'm wondering there. I'm wondering that if you have multiple cameras, I mean, of course, if that's the way how you get the different angles, you add another camera and it's another view into the game, so it has to be rendered again. But can those cameras, do they have to be rendering all the time, or is it like I can turn it off and on? Because then you would still have like only 2 cameras at the same time and not the load of rendering of several cameras at the same time.
Yeah, and in fact, that's actually something that we thought about is like, if you've got 120 hertz headset, this is actually something that you might not know about LIV, but LIV renders. Oh, Critten's gone. I'm
sorry, just turned off the video. I'm still here.
What was I saying?
Multiple cameras
and the refresh rate of the HMD.
Yes, thank you. You saved me. You can't actually change the render rate of LIV. LIV always renders at the refresh rate of your headset. So if you're running at 120 hertz, LIV is rendering 120 hertz. And that means if you set LIV's compositor to 120 FPS, if you set LIV's compositor to 120 FPS, you can actually record 120 FPS mixed reality content and play it back in slow-mo, and it looks fucking dope.
My God, what?
Yeah, that's actually, so I saw in the chat some people have mentioned like the most recent update that we pushed out that lowered CPU cost, but one of the things that came with that was unlocking the frame rate in LIV, so you can actually record at 120 hertz now. The reason why I bring this up is if you've got 120 hertz to play with, you could divide that into 4 30 FPS cameras.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
So that's a possibility, right? So if one frame we render this camera, one frame we render that camera, one frame we render that, that's very possible. We could do that today, but rendering 2 cameras at the same time effectively would increase the cost of LIV from 120 to 240 hertz.
Yeah, okay.
Right? If you're trying to visualize what's actually happening here. The 30 FPS cameras, but 4 of them is doable today with no performance overhead whatsoever. We just haven't implemented it.
Okay. So going back to the, what was the game called?
Before we wander off of this one. All right. So you guys have had the internal discussions. I feel like a natural evolution of this conversation leads into the potential for like picture-in-picture and things like that within the compositor.
Yes. In fact, actually, if you go back, I don't think the VODs are up anymore, but back when Dr. Doom used to stream standouts using early versions of our avatar stuff, the picture-in-picture that we had there was actually implemented in compositors. So yeah, on the roadmap, something that we want to do.
Beautiful.
Something that we likely want to do for Quest users as well.
Nice. Yeah, I wanted to go back to the game you mentioned before with the slow motion Matrix fights. What was the name again?
Oh, Blaston. Yeah.
Blaston, yeah. Where you said the camera movement when you are doing this with avatar mode. Then I think this is just a software camera that moves around. And that's okay. Is there a way to get that done with a real camera? Like you are not rotating, you cannot rotate the physical camera if you don't have something attached to your ceiling where it goes around, but like doing a similar effect, which might not be that sophisticated as it would be with a virtual camera, but still going in the right direction by moving the play space.
Right. Well, and that's effectively how things like spin mod work, right? Where it's just pre-scripted. But you did mention earlier when we were talking about like cinematic effects and things like that, that this was something you guys were talking about building into the compositor itself, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Rotate it.
So then you're rotating the play space completely, and that's even completely independent maybe of the game because you're doing it in Steam VR or so?
Well, so there's like maybe 3 different threads that kind of interweave in a complicated way here.
Yeah.
Steam VR play space transformation is very limited in what you can do. There's no tilts or anything like that. You can only rotate like this and translate around.
Okay.
So you're limited in the kinds of camera motions that you could replicate, is what I'm trying to say. It's like Beat Saber's wobble mod, for example, where the camera goes up and down and fucking tilts all over the place. That's not actually doable with just Steam VR alone.
Okay.
And it's likely that VR runtimes of the future won't even let you control that stuff from outside of the game. So it's kind of a limited area. The LIV SDK, though, and this is where it gets interesting, we have a stage transform object that developers can optionally integrate that allows us, LIV, to fully take control of it in the same way that Wobble Mod takes control of Beat Saber in a full way, or the Spin Mod in Ruirize, for example. So that's kind of complicated. We haven't committed to doing any of this stuff internally. It's likely that we'll expose the hooks so that other people can implement stuff on top of it, kind of in the same way that the camera plugin stuff works. And then there was something else I wanted to mention there as well, but it's slipping my mind. The other thing that kind of complicates this is the only time you need to do dramatic camera motions like that is if, say, for example, I'm facing forward, my camera is behind me, and I want to capture a shot of me from the front. If I want to capture my face and the front of my body, there's nothing I can do. I have to just physically turn around. That's where you would want to animate the play space, right? But if the camera's just behind me and really all I'm trying to do is get a camera angle that's just a little bit to the left, it's probably acceptable for my body to not be accurately captured, for it to be detached and the camera be somewhere else. It might make me look a bit flat, but it might be convincing enough. And that's where I'm talking about getting rid of the difference between avatar cameras and mixed reality cameras comes in. Eventually,
what you were just describing actually touches on an interesting topic that I've focused on in all the time that I've used, Wobble, and now it's called Spin Mod. There's something working in 115 post 114 stuff, but something I noticed that makes it a lot of fun to play with is if you slow down the moment of rotation enough, it's barely noticeable. It's completely imperceptible to the player if you slow it down enough. And it's so imperceptible on the stream that people will be watching for a minute before they finally go, oh, hey, the camera angle swung around to the other side. When did that happen? And that fascinates me from a game development perspective, that you can actually guide the player in the play space and change those angles in such a subtle way that it's not actually noticeable. And I think that can really play into future compositor effects and utilization. Just having the ability to script that stuff. I'm very excited to see what you all are going to be doing with cinematic feature sets.
Totally. In fact, off the back of what you just mentioned, I think this would be something that gets scripted in. I'd love to see some kind of redirected walking implementation, but one that's tuned for optimizing for good camera angles as opposed to optimizing for you walking a long distance, maybe. Because I know you can get a lot with that.
I mean, we have
sections in Pistol Whip where it's obscured by the walls or something. There's a trigger in the map that kind of swings your mixed reality view a little bit to compensate. That's fun.
We have that already right now, that when you're playing like Half-Life Alyx or so, you will lose orientation in your room after a while.
Yeah.
I mean, in Beat Saber, we know it's more or less the same direction, or Ruirize or whatever, if you don't have spin mod, wobble, whatever. But in other games where you are, be it either locomotion or snap turning or so, after a while you will have lost orientation if you don't feel the cable in your back and in which direction it goes or so. So there should be a way, or I mean, that's done already in some games, where you think you're walking more or less straight ahead, but in fact you're turning circles in your room. So that should totally be possible to, if it's done well enough, the player, I guess, won't realize.
Yeah.
I have another. I have some pesky questions because I have the problem that I cannot use LIV for me because I'm not using Windows. And as you just mentioned that you are going to maybe expose certain things from LIV for other players to hook into, or for modders to hook into. Is that then possible through the LIV SDK, or do you need the LIV application then? Where will that be exposed?
I see. I'm going to answer this in two ways. The thing that I was referring to, Pathfinder, would be exposed as kind of like header files. So you can imagine interacting with it as like an API where you do live.cameras.activate or something like that. And you can run that from anywhere, whether that be a shell script or direct low-level C code, or even like C#. That's not specifically Windows or anything. I think what you're asking about is whether or not you could maybe re-implement like a compositor for Linux. And to that, I'm like, I think you could do that if you had the tool set to like investigate exactly how LIV works. I think it would be challenging. However, and this is definitely not a commitment to this, this is something that we're exploring. There is a future where LIV is fully cross-platform, both for Linux and Mac. It's likely that it would be a significant shift in terms of what we're doing, but we're already thinking about it, and things are leaning towards a change in architecture that makes that easy. So hard maybe is my response to that.
It would be very cool, because at the moment I am like bound to third-person mods for games where I can get kind of a mixed reality view, and it's not doing the compositing. So the Z area that's lost, I mean, it's mostly okay because you're facing only in one direction and you have the controllers on the other side of your body compared to the camera position. So you barely see that. But nevertheless, having like a supported official software that does that easily for you, because at the moment it's really calibrating by hand, not having a tool, that would be really, really cool. And I think I was reaching out to LIV already about that, how I would be able to get the compositor view and do the compositing on my own maybe. And I think I can't recall who from LIV said that, but there was something going to the direction of OpenXR and working with the Kronos group.
Yes. Great. Thank you for bringing that up. So we're working to create an open specification for external observers. The whole point being that mixed reality is effectively an external observer, somebody standing close by who's looking in on the scene. We have registered a private extension with the Kronos, with the OpenXR specification, so that we can actually like deploy and test this. We've got like some internal tests that are working through OpenXR. But our goal there is effectively to publish this API so that developers who integrate the LIV SDK initially will be supported through OpenXR, making it cross-platform and therefore open, because the specification will be public. And then eventually we're hoping to integrate with game engine developers so that it's available by default everywhere for everybody. So that's not directly about making things cross-platform, but it will open up the possibility of it, so that anybody can implement their own compositing or ways to get these extra views out of a game or an experience or an XR app.
Yeah,
I mean, we're literally talking about future potential beyond the HMD space, though. Like something we saw in a tech demo years ago, the idea of a viewport where somebody could hold up a tablet and look into that mixed reality space and see both the person and the composited content right there, like it's their own window into the
VR world.
That's fun.
Yeah, there's something that we believe should be kind of like the comparison that I always draw is look at OBS and game capture. It's actually magic the way that works. Remember the days of Fraps and Hypercam and Bandicam, where your CPU usage would go through the fucking roof and it would just spit out these gigantic files. Then came along this tool called DxTory, which was somehow way less resource use than every other screen capture tool on the market. The way it worked is that it would inject code into the game that was running to capture the game's back buffer before it was sent to the display. Okay. And that is very cheap. And OBS implements that method to capture textures from games. So like the fact that streaming exists and the fact that you can just run Discord and have a screen share that just works, it's all based on this same like screen hooking method. It's
why we have to deal with the anti-cheat hooks.
All of that bullshit.
Which actually leads me to a question I wanted to ask you about, since we've been talking about the future of LIV. So the competitive scene in VR maturing means that anti-cheat being a thing in our world is going to be very real very soon. What kind of problems do you guys foresee as that slowly ramps up?
From LIV's perspective, there's obviously huge issues with that, right? If you have, as a direct example, you can create an avatar camera in LIV, set the camera type to gamepad, and you can sit there with an Xbox controller, or a friend can sit there with an Xbox controller and fly around and basically be a UAV drone.
Yeah, let's not talk about specific stuff because it's a huge issue in some games. Maybe we should talk about it because people don't believe that cheating exists in games like Population 1. And the sad reality of it is it does. And yeah, while I don't want to lose features like LIV, we need anti-cheat when things start becoming truly competitive and we're talking about cash pots and people actually building careers around this content.
Yeah, LIV's stance on this is we've already introduced the idea of, and this is the label for it, but like trust us to handle this properly. The idea of business settings. So if a game publisher wants to have more control over what LIV's camera capabilities are, we can actually have that flagged in an SDK, and a game developer can tell us, no, we don't want people to be having free access to the camera. They can only use our implementation of the camera.
I noticed that granularity in the Pop 1 beta.
Yeah, it's a little bit janky, and we will fix that. But in effect, we've always been painfully aware of the problems with cheating, particularly with LIV. It's very obvious how it would work. And there are various like creative ways you can get around it. So like one of them is limiting use of the camera and where it can be. The other one is simply making it so that even if you do move the camera away, you only see objects that you would see from the first person perspective anyway. So you don't get any extra information. It just looks a bit janky. Say, for example, like you were looking outside of a building and there were like a crowd of people. Maybe you can only see what you could actually see through the window.
Okay.
So like it's largely unsolved is what I'm saying. Something that we're painfully aware of and want to work with game developers on solving properly.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take it in a dark direction, but
no, I mean,
information and
yeah, it's interesting. It's something that we are going to face sooner or later anyway. So that topic will come up either way. I have another question there. I mean, what's the business model for LIV? Because so far, how I see that is that developers get that for free, right? But right. Developers need money, and you don't do that for free. So how does that work?
So we're VC backed, which means that we don't need to worry about making money just yet. It might be a thing that we care about. It might not be a thing that we care about. The way we see it is we can't charge game developers for integrating this because it's something that asking a game developer to integrate any custom code is a big ask. It's like a show of trust and all sorts of things, right? So like our role as an SDK is to be as lightweight as possible, as maintenance free as possible, and as just works as possible. Really, really hard. But it's the most sensitive part of the process because if a game developer doesn't integrate, creators don't get access to record things. We don't get our integration. It's not good. And on the same kind of thinking, creators, people who are streaming and YouTubers, we could charge them like professional video editing software. You know, it could be sold as a production suite. But we believe that the number of creators there is actually smaller than what we could potentially reach. So like we don't see the value in charging streamers directly. Like that's kind of cutting ourselves off. So we're interested in maybe like exploring what, say, I would call casual sharing might lead us to. So like people who are not necessarily creating for a job. So like people who aren't trying to cultivate a following or audiences of streamers. You've seen the stuff that we've been doing with Spaces recently. That's something that we're excited to experiment with in giving streamers access to have like a virtual space for their audiences to hang out. So like my answer to what is the business model for LIV is we're figuring it out. It's going to take some time and some interesting things we're doing.
Cool. Interesting.
Have you seen any of the Spaces stuff?
We should talk about Spaces. Let's talk about Spaces. I honestly have not seen much. I've seen a couple comments on it in your Discord, but it's not something I've gotten to play with personally. What can you tell us?
We've run two big public experiments with it, and a couple like earlier ones. But the whole idea is that we wanted to see how connecting a VR user with a bunch of non-VR users, how that would actually look like. So if you imagine you're in VR as a personality and you're surrounded visually by your audience as like tiny little people who are looking at you, and you can see where they are and you can interact with them, you can like pick them up and they can chat to you and things like that. That's what Spaces currently is. It was called an AMA, but it ended up not being an AMA. It was just a hangout with Doom, our CEO and co-founder. That was really fun. We had like 80 observers in there. And from Doom's perspective, he was in VR and saw all of these little buddies around him, and he could like pick out individual people and point at them and all sorts of stuff. And then just on Friday this week, we had Nikki from Stealth Shampoo doing another hangout session where he was in there as his giant wolf 3D avatar. Same deal. He can see people interact with them. But it's more of like a social space than anything.
That's exciting because in my professional life, I work with lots of spreadsheets and Visio workflows and things like that. And I have taken advantage of, say, Tilt Brush and capturing and going into WebEx with it and just sharing my entire mixed reality space and doing presentations from there. So the entire concept of being able to do large presentations or shows from mixed reality, that's fascinating. That's interesting. I think there's a ton that we haven't actually explored yet. I'm very excited to, because I think like connecting Pancake users and viewers in a way that's like more interesting than just a 2D stream, I think is something that LIV is going to be exploring and experimenting with quite a bit. Because I don't necessarily believe that 2D is going to be the future of all content forever. Like, if you imagine a future where everybody has VR headsets or AR headsets, I'm not convinced that the primary way people will share their experiences is going to be a 2D video. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I'm not sure if it's 2D. Can we talk about that a little bit? Like, the next few years are going to prove out to be really interesting if Apple and Facebook meet these speculative roadmaps that we keep hearing about. What do you think that market penetration of an affordable augmented reality device, what's that going to do to our segment?
To our segment. So what is that here? Is that VR enthusiast?
I feel like mixed reality kind of falls squarely in line with augmented reality. Let's not kid ourselves. The difference is the opacity of the glasses you're using, right? That's pretty much it. So I don't know. Maybe it's too much of a rabbit hole, but with this new tech hitting, I think we're going to have more people trying to bring their own realities in and maybe not so much key out that reality, you know? It'll be important to see those surrounding workspaces. Anyway.
No, I think I'm not sure personally. Like, I can see maybe the next couple of years, you know, things like eye tracking and face tracking are going to become huge. I think there's going to be some kind of solution for, you know, having a presentation of your identity inside VR spaces. AR and MR, whatever, I don't care. I'm in the same camp as you. I think it's just a transparent background. I do think the use cases change a bit because VR at the moment is very much like you are focused, you are in a singular experience. There's no multitasking, whereas AR will be multitasking by default. So I think it's likely that maybe the shape of applications will change, whereas a VR application, which is an opaque background, will be, I mean, SteamVR calls it a scene application, and that makes perfect sense. It's a different scene that you're in. And then you can have, you know, AR applications that sit on top that are kind of like widgets or objects. And so like you've got these two different shapes. You've got a scene application and you've got a widget application that's more designed like a physical object than it is a full scene, right? That's one way I think it might go, but that's just like thinking about how do you get multitasking into this. And I think that's what Facebook's kind of knocking on the door of with their productivity push.
It's really fascinating what they're doing with the hybridization of the workspace. I was surprised that we haven't heard more noise about that, because the idea that you can actually go in with your boundaries and assign your desk in there. And then that Logitech keyboard that I haven't looked into the tech enough. I don't know exactly how it's recognizing the orientation of the keyboard. I think it might have an IMU in it, but it's like I saw the keyboard on sale for $69. So I'm not entirely sure there's actually an IMU in the thing.
I'm pretty convinced that that's just using the Quest cameras. It's just detecting that keyboard itself. I imagine if you printed off a picture of it and held it up to the Quest, it'd recognize it. That's my guess, at least.
That would make sense. I mean, it's not like it has to actively track where the thing is. So
it works. I imagine it works a lot the same way that the hand tracking does.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a fascinating concept. I can't wait to see where it goes. I'm not entirely convinced HMDs are in the place where I know people do it, but I haven't successfully been able to set up a virtual workspace that I can spend hours in. It just does not work for me. And that's why I have an array of monitors around my primary workspace, as I'm sure you do as well. So I'm sure it's like swordfish in your workspace.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. No, I just have the one screen, but my desk it's on a coffee table with wheels. So my VR space is where I'm sitting right now. And then it becomes a nice big one if I push the desk out of the way.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have experience because on Linux, I have this tool called XR Desktop, where I can bring all the desktop windows in the VR space. And that's a neat feature to have those windows there. But doing something like productive work that's not gaming related,
it's hard.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I don't even have, how should I type? I mean, this is something that's, of course,
even
you can sit on your
typist.
Yeah, you would have to reach out to your real keyboard, and then you need the AR part again with the transparency. You can see where your hands are, because that's something in VR that doesn't work without a proper controller, where you don't want to touch real life things that you don't see. You want to have that attached on your hand, or you want to have your hand already on it and don't move it anymore, something like that. But anything else at the moment, I think that has to evolve a little bit more.
And nobody wants to stick $100 tracker on every single thing they want to be able to find in virtual reality. I mean, tracking of physical objects.
Tracking of physical objects is going to be image-based, I think. I don't think anybody's going to be using Lighthouse trackers for that kind of stuff.
So have you guys, I'm sure you all have done some crazy internal experiments, and I've got to ask, there's important tech out there that has just gone completely ignored. And my favorite one in the VR world is the two beautiful global shutter cameras that are on the front of the Index. Just what in the hell is wrong with us? Why hasn't anybody experimented with further development on those things? Because those are some witchcraft cameras. They're beautiful. Have there been any thoughts on a way they can be integrated into mixed reality?
Nothing internally at LIV, actually. We've often asked the question, what does first-person mixed reality look like? And I don't think
it always comes back to it's captured HMD, right?
I forget. Well, no, sorry. There's actually
your hands.
Right. Well, there was actually somebody who used to do that back before LIV was like a piece of software. I forget which streamer it was. I don't think it was Nightfire. It was like one of the very early VR streamers. But basically, he had a fully 360 green screen room with attached like a headlamp and a GoPro to his headset. No, it wasn't Tribal Instincts. But the point there is that actually looked pretty good. You'd calibrate for the GoPro and it would look pretty damn decent. And the way that you do that is just grab the camera layer in OBS and resize it so it looks like your hand is where the weapon is or whatever. The Index cameras could be integrated for something like that, but I don't think it offers much visual value. Like, it would be cute, but I think that's all it would be. The cameras themselves are amazing. I love them. In fact, whenever my cameras are not working, I'm very frustrated and upset because sometimes USB issues get in the way. But I use them for like taking drinks and things like that whilst I'm in VR. If I'm in the middle of a VR workout and I'm sweaty, the headset is staying on.
Yeah.
I'm not giving it a chance. I'm not giving it a chance to cool down. Ugh, gross.
Oh man, dude, it is so shocking to put that cold gasket. I literally have 6 gaskets because I hate that sensation, and I'll just throw the sweaty one in the laundry bag and grab the next one.
It's gross, man. Like, and taking the headset off afterwards, and I grab the towel. But the cameras are amazing. I wish people were doing more things with them. There is an API in OpenVR for you to get the textures from the cameras, so it's easy to experiment with. I believe HTC have released a tool that does hand tracking using SteamVR cameras, which I think they intended. Well, so here's the thing. I think they intended for it to be used with, the Vive Pro. But I think the API they use to get the cameras is actually the SteamVR one, meaning that it also works with Index.
Same as the Index.
Probably,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't tried it myself, but I think it's free. I think it's free to download. I don't
tracking experiments.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that it's going to be, as good as Quest hand tracking, but I haven't tried it. Who knows?
So, what are your experiences with the different headsets? How many have you been testing with? And like for LIV, I guess you have all of them. Or
I think internally at LIV we have most headsets.
Yeah.
I have. You can see there. I've got my OG Vive. This is.
I have one.
Release day headset.
Nice. Yeah, I have one myself as well still. And I don't want to give it away. There it is. The beauty.
I can't believe it's still out. Wow. Mine's
no, I think you can't buy the first one anymore. It's you can get the Pro, but not the first one anymore.
No, I meant physically out on your desk.
Yeah, this is what I use for.
Mine's in a box.
Oh no, I have it here always in a bag. So, and there is this original protection, so the sunlight, if there is some light coming there. I'm using this still for desktop VR when seated experiences.
I have to say, like, the original Vive is built like a tank. This thing's seen so much abuse. I still like it. I prefer the colors on the display of that compared to the Index.
Mm-hmm.
I got my Quest 1 with a very stealthy O-shaped sticker there as well.
The very stealthy Beat Saber sticker.
Yeah. Oh, I've got an Oculus Go in there as well, and my Valve Index. So those are the headsets that I have here. I do actually have footage somewhere of me doing mixed reality with an Oculus Go. I think in Beat Saber, somewhere around.
Cool.
Yeah. God, I can already imagine the setup. What were you using? Like Razer Hydra and...
No. Just like that one controller, one Saber mode.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
it was awful.
No. That's amazing.
But like ALVR worked with the Go. So like you could have a single controller in SteamVR and do it. So like we got mixed reality working with that as an experiment before the Quest came out, actually. There's actually some very cool videos of us doing mixed reality with the Quest 1 before that came out, where our office, which is like a 3-story old brewery called The Vault, where I walked with the Quest all the way up the stairs, all the way up to the very top of the building. And I'm like playing mixed reality with the camera looking at me from like something like 10 meters below.
Oh, do you still have footage from that? We need to see this.
It looks... Give me 2 seconds. I know where it is on my hard drive. So maybe I can... Is it all right if I screen share into this?
Sure.
Yeah. How fascinating.
Let me see if I can dig it up. LIV... No.
As long as it doesn't shift the cameras, it will be all good on Discord. Otherwise, the recording will be messed up a little bit. Or we'll see.
Oh my god! Yeah, okay, I found it. This is cool. In fact, it is going to mess up the cameras. So, do you want me to maybe just use OBS camera instead?
Either that, or we share that later, because this is a podcast, so people won't be able to see that as well. So it's a bot and a podcast. So we will, if you can share that somewhere, we can share the link and have a look at that. So maybe that's...
I will double check that I can like upload it. But I have it ready, so I will do that.
Yeah, then we will share that. We will share that and have a look at that. Yeah, but talking about those different headsets, there are, of course, some pro and cons. And yeah, what are your pro and cons for the headsets you own there? Because you still have them, and I guess you sometimes still use them, right?
At the moment, I'm using predominantly just Index and Quest. So I think the Index Pro is just that it can be worn for hours and hours and hours and hours. Like, it's such a comfortable headset. Watching big screen in that is genuinely a better experience than any TV that you could put in front of my face. So I think that alone is like enough to make it the daily driver.
Did I hear Index Pro? Is that a different one?
No, sorry. I mean, I'm not sure what I said.
Like a positive.
Yeah.
The Index positive side. Okay, the Index Pro. I was there's a Vive Pro, and then the Index Pro.
I hinged on that for a second too, but
that's a new headset we haven't heard about. Liv has some insights.
You heard it here first, folks.
Sorry.
Next show, Gabe Newell is our guest.
Sorry about that.
You'll be sad to know I don't have any exclusive hardware to show off or anything like that.
So yeah, okay, I see.
But yeah, Index is just unbelievably comfortable. It has the best audio I've ever heard of anything ever. I will be buying BMR headphones if they ever announce them. Because holy shit, those headphones are so nice.
It's incredible, yes.
And obviously the frunk is amazing. Like printing stuff to put into the frunk. Like I have a... is it to hand?
Yeah, show us your front toys.
I have two. I have two front toys. I have this one, which is the Vive facial tracker on a front.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Okay, cool.
That just goes into there like that.
That is too cool.
And then I have another one that's kind of like this, but instead of it being the facial tracker, it is the Leap Motion mounts, but I'm not sure where that is right now.
Such an obvious question that we should have asked earlier. So you folks are experimenting with facial animation on the mixed reality avatars.
Yes. In fact, I was hoping to join you with an avatar instead of my usual body. And I could have done that. I could still switch. It wouldn't take me long. But yeah, that's something that we're playing with. And I'd like to get a version of LIV running that doesn't actually use VR. Like one that just uses, say, your webcam to drive a LIV avatar.
Nice.
Very, very doable. I've got a couple of experiments behind the scenes where it's like really fucking good.
So LIV becoming the next VTuber software.
If you want to show off your facial recognition, we would love to see it. I'm sure there's a number. Yeah, Nina is in the chat right now. Nina alone is going to want to see this. So if you've got time to switch to it, we would absolutely love to see the avatar facial recognition stuff.
Well, so the facial tracker, that just uses HTC's own SDK for that. So like, that's not something that we've invented or anything. That just plugs directly in. What I was referring to, I can't show you right now. It's not in a working state. It's very much like a private branch. I've broken a bunch of shit to get it to even function a little bit. So you'll have to be more patient with me on that one.
Okay, fair enough.
No worries.
Damn.
Okay, that has been mostly about the Index. I'm a big Index fan as well. HTC and Index are the only ones that work for me on Linux, so I have no other choice. But yeah, the quality of the Index is amazing. Not only headphones and the visuals, but also the microphone, especially for streamers. When we, for Pancake streams, were using the mod mics, which have an equally awesome sound. But what the Index has compared to the HTC Vive, that's worlds in between. It's incredible. I've never heard such a good microphone before. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the other headsets? What do you like about those?
I think I haven't tried Quest 2, but the original Vive, I'm going to comment on real quick. I think the thing that I like the most about that is that the display is really nice and it still holds up today. And it's surprisingly comfortable when you fit it right. And it also has an accidental feature, which I super love, which is that it has two audio outputs. that mix together in your headphones. So it's got a USB audio device and an HDMI audio device, which if you're a streamer and you want to be talking to your moderators, you can jump into a Discord channel and have them privately talking to you. And that's awesome. Yeah. I used to do that all the time when I was streaming regularly. And I wish more headsets had that in a way that didn't introduce delay like Voice Meter does, for example. That's a minor point that the original Vive totally wins on. I think the Vive Pro has it too.
And let's get back to the robust nature of the original Vive too. That thing is a legitimate tank. The things that happened to mine, the amount of sweat that was poured out of it after long streaming sessions, just unbelievable. Okay, anyway.
Yeah. No, it's honestly, it's a miracle that this one's alive. Like my predominant use of VR, like I'm not a prolific VR gamer or anything like that. I haven't played through a ton of games. I still haven't finished Half-Life Alyx, and I've got a fucking Half-Life tattoo on me. So like I don't play VR games that often. I play VR to move my body and work out, and I sweat a lot. The fact that I haven't killed a headset with sweat is honestly incredible to me. So yeah, Vive is a freaking tank. In fact, this headset, my biggest complaint with it is relating to sweat. So there's a nice segue for you. Why has it got fabric on it? Look, it's so gross.
So gross. I know.
Oh, gosh.
Gross it is. Yeah, this is my OG Vive. I think this is a dev kit, actually. OG Vive? OG Quest. This is a dev kit. And I love this thing. I think that if you get the fit right, even if it is front heavy, it can be comfortable for active gaming sessions. And the fact that it has no cable is it's just out of this world good. And, you know, say what you will about the Facebook integration and it being it's needing to be linked to a real profile. It's a really solid piece of kit, and it's the first piece of portable VR that's actually a good experience. It's the only thing I would actually put on somebody's head as a first-time experience these days.
It's so much easier now. I mean, I'm sure you did the same thing back in the day when you would introduce a new person to VR. You probably had a ritual that you would walk them through. This is what you need to do, mostly because if you break my shit, I'm going to kill you.
Ritual is the right word. I had a full script because before I joined LIV, I actually I was working at a web development agency, and I was like the VR enthusiast at that company. So whenever there was like a big marketing event or something like that, I would go along, I would set up Lighthouse with a Vive, and I would onboard, business people into VR and show them Tilt Brush. I'd show them the Blue. I'd show them the Longbow demo and everything. And I had a whole thing where I'd put the headset on their face, adjust it for them so it's comfortable, and then I'd wave the controller in front of their face and show them the chaperone system. And it's a ritual. But
teach them the fundamentals of moving and teleporting and
like reminding them that man, I'm so glad that we don't have to do this stuff quite as often. Like Quest is simplifying a lot of this, but like reminding people that, by the way, no, it's like fully tracked. You can crouch, you can walk. Yeah. Like don't stand there like a stuck chicken, actually experience VR.
What an experience it's been.
Just to wrap up, I think Quest is like the unequivocal blind recommend, with the caveat of the Facebook account required.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest con with it. I think it's the future of VR. It just has to.
Have you made it to any of the big trade shows or anything? CES, Gamescom, stuff like that. Have you had the opportunity to experiment with other HMDs? Particularly like Pico Neo's offerings and some of the more interesting stuff like Olo, that was I think it was called Olo, the one that's all sonic sensors and you can strap it on a 3DOF and turn it into 6DOF. What have your experiences with some of that stuff been like?
Sadly, I personally haven't attended many of the big like consumer VR shows, consumer electronics show or anything else that's out there. But I have tried one esoteric headset, which is the X-Top. In fact, they're local to Czechia. They're in Prague.
Really? That thing is insane. It's huge.
You haven't really experienced like the future of tech until you've put a headset on your face. It figures out your IPD and you feel the motors like adjusting the lenses in front of your face.
Visuals. The first time I saw one of those, they didn't have a machine that could handle the 8K frame rates that those goggles were capable of. And they were doing a flight sim demonstration. They had it strapped to a flight helmet. And the entire thing must have weighed like 15 pounds or something like that. It was nuts. But
it's an incredibly...
So what's it like these days? What are they doing with it?
So as far as I can tell, they're focusing more on like the training and simulation side of things. And it looks like they've gotten a really good contract with the United States military somewhere as like providing training for fighter pilots.
That's that in a box. Oh, okay. Yeah. The in a box kit they did. I saw that, but I haven't been sure what those applications are.
No, the last I tried it was actually quite a while ago. Like before they improved things like they do something fancy now with distortion correction for the lenses, so it's a lot more comfortable. It now actually has like fully realized eye tracking and foveated rendering. But when I tried it, it didn't have some of that stuff. In fact, it didn't even have the integrated leap motion that it now has. But that headset was a visual, like, it's like nothing else. I actually tried, you remember when Beat Saber updated with the Angel Voices song that was hidden? You had to like cross over your hands inside the tutorial level to unlock it. Remember that?
Right.
I actually tried that for the first time on release day on the X-Tal. And playing Beat Saber with a headset that big is challenging.
Oof. It's like if you played the Beat Saber arcade cabinets, those
look awful. They look like a really painful experience. I can only imagine.
I'm kind of glad they're dead. There was one I played in Vegas that was set up on a Vive Pro, and every piece of it just had these giant chunks of metal attached to them to not only tether them to the machine, but to protect them if somebody dropped them, you know? And the way I was smashing block, I was literally moving like this. It was like I was in molasses because it was all so heavy.
I mean, I guess that's one way to get some resistance training into Beat Saber.
Have you also tried the Pimax?
I haven't tried the Pimax. I've always been curious to, but no, sadly not. I haven't tried it.
Because I remember they have the biggest ones, and I think playing Beat Saber with that is just not possible.
I was going to bring that up when we started talking about the X-Tal. I have experiences with the 5K and the 8K, and they're smaller. They are smaller than the X-Tal, and since they're made of plastic, they don't weigh nearly as much either. The X-Tal is designed to be robust. Like Rue was saying, U.S. military application, you know?
It's like this big. It's like literally this wide on your head.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's huge. Pimaxes are interesting. They've got a layer in there to help compensate for the massive FOV that they're capable of, and there is kind of some distortion at the edges, but unless you tilt your eyes all the way to the side and stare at it, it's not entirely noticeable. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I think that's it for esoteric headsets and me. I really want to try out the Vario headset. I've heard really amazing things about that. And one member of the team has tried a true light field display by Serial.
Oh, man.
But, the thing he tried was only a monocular thing, but it was like I think it was like a flower inside a volumetric display that you like look into. But it has all of the depth of field and like, because it's a light field display, it's like a physical object that's constructed in front of you. Incredible stuff.
So excited that people are working with light field with VR. I was sad when that camera tech didn't catch on. Lytro, I don't know what they did wrong, but they messed up bad because that should have been the next generation of photography. It really should have been. I don't know if you guys ever saw those cameras, but the entire concept was you could take a picture. It didn't matter where you focused. You could change your depth of field later on in post. You could literally pick what part of the scene you were focused in. It was just witchcraft. And it's the same thing in reverse they're doing with the VR HMDs. It's, man.
I have some thoughts on what's happening with that. And maybe it's interesting to get into a little bit, but like, have you seen what Oculus was doing with machine learning powered depth of field? So there's this thing, I think it was maybe a couple of years ago now, maybe it's a bit newer than that, but they published, I guess, a paper about how they had trained a machine learning framework to take the input from a game, rendering an RGB buffer and a depth buffer, and then this machine learning framework would take in a point to be focused on, like a distance and a location, and then it would generate what the depth of field would look like. And because it's this very targeted machine learning algorithm, basically you get depth of field for almost free, like a fixed cost. Whereas rendering right now, it's absurdly expensive to do depth of field, right? What's exciting about that is like you combine that with some eye tracking and you've got yourself effectively free depth of field and, you know, like genuine eye focus interactions where you can switch what you're focusing on and fake it and have that be incredibly efficient. I think that's where things are going to go instead, to machine learning focused stuff. So like, you know, with a camera that captures a scene such that you can refocus it post fact, I think we'll just get machine learning networks that work so efficiently that you'll just be able to do that because they'll guess at what the depth is, maybe from a short video or something like that, as opposed to dedicated hardware. So maybe that's one of the reasons why it's not like blowing up or doing stuff, because making new hardware is expensive. Making new machine learning models is not as expensive.
Well, and I think on the HMD side, that's definitely a fair point. We may never see those light field HMDs hit the marketplace because of exactly what you just described. The cameras should be out there, though. The way we actually capture the video, I just, my God.
I have a question for LIV again, though. As you said, you have been testing with all the different headsets. Is there any incompatibility with LIV on any of the headsets? I mean, of course, if it's like a Quest, which is not attached to SteamVR or so, or not to PC, that's something else. But those PC headsets, is there something that doesn't work? Or is it like because it's all API and standard, it's working?
Yeah, basically, because it's all API and standards based, it's something that we don't have to think about. As long as it's running through OpenVR, it's functional with LIV. There are complications with it when it comes to like specific engines and things like that, but that's nothing to do with the HMD. That's more about like software crap and annoying logistics. As far as so yeah, like that's just going to be compatible. And I think with Oculus maybe moving towards a direction where they don't have a fully like PC enabled presence, like where they're moving towards Quests over Link as opposed to a direct PC VR headset. It's possible that the Oculus runtime on PC will just stop being used. So if LIV is only ever working with OpenVR or OpenXR, then we're fine. Like it will just be working everywhere, regardless of the headset that you've picked. As for Quest and standalone headsets like Pico Neo and like the Vive Wave and things like that, right? That's a slightly different problem because on PC, you can do a lot of things for free that on a mobile detached piece of hardware, you just have to get creative with. So like something that we take for granted with LIV on desktop is that sending a texture to another program, aka the game sending output to LIV, is free. It costs nothing. It really is like free, other than the video memory that it takes up. But then on Quest, if you want to composite, you need to be doing that on a device that has a camera. So you're doing that on a phone or you're doing that on a computer. How do you get the output from the Quest onto that device if it's not running the VR on the device itself, right? You have to encode the video as if it were OBS and then stream it and then decode it and then use it. It complicates some of the questions and it makes some problems more interesting. So like, you know the LIV Streamer Kit experience where you get your chat up inside your headset and you can like get your alerts and everything. Trying to do that with a Quest you just can't do it. Like there's no multitasking on a Quest. So we're going to have to come up with like more creative solutions for that. That's the kind of stuff that we're thinking about at the moment.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess compatibility is something that we're always going to be really focused on. I think LIV's power is in being unopinionated about what it supports. So if a standalone headset that isn't the Quest comes along, that happens to be, popular and people want to use it, then we'll support it.
Where's my penguin?
So, Have you all expanded beyond iPhones in your testing of the wireless Quest mixed reality?
Not yet, but it's on a roadmap to go to things like Android, for sure. And the reason why we're focusing on iOS first is just simply because we know it's going to work. Developing for Android is a bit of a mixed bag. You know, there's so many more devices that you have to be more robust with your testing. Building something for iOS first is cheaper.
Well, Apple had APIs for their LiDAR sooner too, didn't they? Are you guys utilizing that for?
Yeah, so we don't. Apple are a bit strange with their APIs. They don't give you direct access to that data unless you ask for it. But the feature that we use, which is called people segmentation, that does use the LiDAR to improve the output of it. We're not directly using it. But it's neither here nor there. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing with Apple, as you said, it's it's going to work with there, but like Steam has stopped supporting with VR on Mac. So I think what you are referring to is using an iPhone and stuff in conjunction with a PC and not with a Mac anymore. So it's
yeah. Well, there's two sides of it, right? Like the goal for LIV is for it to be compatible with everything, right? So if you've got a PC VR headset, and when I say PC VR, I'm referring to computer VR, not necessarily Windows VR.
I like that
working.
Sorry.
No. I appreciate it. If you have a phone, right, you have a good camera, right?
Yeah.
And it would be great to be able to use that for mixed reality and composite stuff if you're using any headset, right? So eventually the LIV mobile app will actually have the ability to stream your camera to your PC. We already have that on iOS. It's called LIV Camera, right? But that will be available for Android at some point too. And also, if you have a Quest and you're doing standalone, you should be able to do that on a mobile phone alone and on a PC or Mac or Linux. Like, that's the goal, is to make it so that I have a shitty PC, I have a standalone headset. Okay, you need this thing from LIV and you need this thing from LIV. Oh, I have a PC VR headset and a 3080. Okay, you need this thing from LIV and you need to connect your camera over this thing. Like, I guess the point is, the distinctions between all of this stuff shouldn't matter. That's what we're trying to go towards.
It's purely like self-centered purposes that I'm so interested in the wireless functionality, because I've several years, of course this year CES didn't happen in its normal fashion, so I didn't have to deal with it this year, but very frequently I end up, at conventions and stuff like that, and I'll haul my entire rig with me just so I can try and stream while I'm there. And the last year, 2020, it was my little underpowered gaming laptop and Quest and Oculus Link, and it all just went tragically wrong. And of course, I wasn't doing mixed reality. And when we've got stuff like the S21 Ultra out there in, that's insane. Actually, it's been quiet this whole time.
Perfect timing.
I know. Yeah. I would love to be able to just take this and a Quest out in my hotel room.
Yeah.
And
it's
that
so
be
obvious.
The entire setup, stream straight from the phone, 5G right here. Let's go.
Welcome to the modern world.
Yeah. I mean, like, that is absolutely the goal for LIV. Like, is being able to, like, I guess the thinking that I've got behind it is, like, sharing VR experiences should be as easy as breathing, right? Like, you double press the power button on your phone and your camera is open and ready to go. You press the shutter button and a second later you can press share, right? That doesn't exist for VR yet. And I think LIV is the company that will invent it. And figuring out how to do that in a convenient way is exactly what we're trying to do.
Oh, that's beautiful. Nice. Your beautiful room.
But as Crin just mentioned, CES didn't happen. That's also something I'm interested in. How is LIV holding up in the last 2 years? Is everybody working from home, or how does that work?
Yeah, LIV has always been remote. So for us, the pandemic has been obviously an extra stressor, right? But it hasn't been this, like, huge thing where for us as a company, things fundamentally change. We've always operated asynchronously and across different time zones. So we've actually experienced a lot of the same struggles that all of the companies have been experiencing since last April, right? What's really interesting about that is like you've probably seen like the names are out of mind right now, but there are like a couple of corporate focused social experiences like that are meant to be office replacements. It's like you go to a web browser and it'll be like a top-down map and there'll be like little avatars moving around. And it's meant to be like this persistent space that you can spend time in with your team. Live Spaces, we actually ran like small experiments internally at one point where we would sit inside Live Spaces together and listen to music and be in there during the workday. I guess really all I'm saying here is like we've experienced all of these growing pains, and I think we've gotten to the point where we work well as a company remotely. And yeah, so like we've got people in Australia, we've got people in mainland Europe, in the UK, in Canada, and across America too. So like both the East and West Coast.
Yeah, at least here in Germany, it was like, yeah, it is advised to do a home office, but you don't have to if it's necessary to come into the office. But from what you said, and I've heard before, that LIV is a company that is based on remote workers mostly. I think it didn't change that much for you. So
no. So like I've been sat here working from here for the last year.
How often are you, or have you been meeting before in real life? Have there been like once a year or regularly meetings, or has it been remote all the time?
It's been largely remote. So there was a time when LIV was only like 4 people, and we had all met up at one point. But since then, we've grown quite a bit. Like we are 21 or 22 strong right now. And a lot of us haven't met each other yet. Like a few people have independently met each other, but the team largely has not met each other. We had planned to all, in fact, yeah, the entire LIV team planned to meet at TwitchCon 2020.
Oh,
that was the first TwitchCon where I also wanted to go, and something else happened. That was going to be
my first TwitchCon too.
We could have all met there.
Like the whole plan was like we were going to show up as the LIV team. Yeah. Like 20 people come storm TwitchCon and be the LIV fam. Nice. But we will do it, you know. We even booked all the hotels and everything. We've got so many hotel credits because we couldn't use them.
No. Oh no! Oh.
I think they expire this too.
It will happen eventually. I'm sure.
Has to happen. Oh. Can't wait to meet your team at TwitchCon.
Hell yeah, we're all. I can't wait. I can't wait for the teams to meet like a whole bunch of creators. Seriously. Our team is awesome. We got a whole bunch of nerds on the team. They're fucking great. I love them.
Y'all have some fantastic people on your team. You really do. I'm excited for the future of mixed reality.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited that I get to work on that.
We are interested to see what's happening, especially the cross-platform thingy. That's what I'm interested in most.
I'm most concerned in when I get mixed reality shoulder pads. I want to have big, giant, spiky World of Warcraft style shoulder pads when I'm smashing block.
I mean, LIV is not only doing the mixed reality stuff. As you mentioned before, you had been doing this green cube, where I was about to buy that one even, but then it got taken off the market, and it wasn't sold anymore, and I was like, dang it. But I wouldn't have had the space anyway. Now I have to do this all with green mats and green clothes, but okay.
What were the dimensions of the original cube?
It was 8 foot exactly, internal size. So it was just an 8 foot cube.
Yeah, I would not have been able to put that inside here in my living room. But mixed reality, of course, is something, but you also mentioned Streamer Kit, which is the getting alerts from Twitch, at least from Twitch. I don't know. Are there plans for integrating other platforms, streaming platforms as well?
Yeah, we looked into supporting YouTube, and we have an email thread going with them. But effectively, their API is very heavily quota limited, and it might be quite expensive for us to fully integrate it. So we might have to get creative with YouTube.
Okay.
We have other platforms planned, but at the moment we're just focused on other things. And Twitch is the primary place where people are streaming. So it makes sense for us to stay focused on it.
Yeah. But there's also some, let's say, integrations into other games. At least I know of one game, which is Beat Saber. Are there other games where those kind of viewer interactions are going into the game except Beat Saber?
There's some context I'd like to give to what went down with Beat Saber, because obviously that's a mod, right? Like we made a mod for Beat Saber.
Not really official, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's not. In fact, I don't think we asked permission before we did it, because it's a mod and it was made for the modding community and everything. And we showed it to them. And their reaction was like, "Oh, this is super interesting. This is really cool," and they just let us continue on with it. But we never worked directly with them on that or anything. And for us, that was one of these experiments where we're like, we have a hunch on doing something, and we want to see the results of it. So we did that. We saw that people were making way more from their streams when they were using Game Changer versus not. And we did some more experiments and some product thinking behind that. Game Changer now is in this state where we have it. People love it. It's still really good. I think it's one of the deepest integrations that are out there. I know Synthriders has some seriously exciting stuff, and they are actually part of this Game Changer story too, because we were working on a very deep integration with Synthriders, which eventually became their separate update with all of the interactivity stuff. Because we had a version 2 of Game Changer coming out that was meant to be a whole SDK and API and service where you could go to a web browser and interact with like a controller that's overlaid on top of your stream so that viewers can interact and do stuff. So like imagine extra buttons that are showing up that actually cause effects. So instead of somebody doing !bomb, they like throw a bomb,
Wow.
that kind of stuff. Right. And I'm sorry for teasing it because we canceled that. And we cancelled it because, and I don't mind like being public about this, we cancelled it because we realized that the bulk of the work that goes into stuff like that is actually on the game design side. Making stuff that's interesting is actually something that the game developer really needs to work with us very deeply on, or we need to like design it for them as game designers. Our team are not game designers. So that was something that was just tricky for us to do. So as far as Game Changer goes, we don't intend to expand this to other games in any official way. And in fact, the mod itself is very much on like what I would call life support. We will keep it going for as long as it is reasonable to keep it going. However, and this is a good place to I guess mention this, is we're looking to open source it. We tried to last year. But we actually couldn't find any APIs that had access to the things we need. So, for example, we need access to Twitch's cheer information, which requires you to be connected to a specific endpoint on the Twitch side of things for it to work. And there were no mods in the Beat Saber modding community that exposed that. So there was nothing that we could, submit a pull request to or something like that to make it work in an easy way. So I guess what I'm saying is, as soon as something like that exists, we'll open source it and we'll make it so that everybody can use it, and we don't have to necessarily like eventually kill it. Because from our perspective, if a Beat Saber update that comes out that fundamentally breaks what we did to get it working, it's going to be hard for us to commit to fixing it because it's not something we're developing.
I see.
That's a real shame too, because that literally was a game changer. I loved the name of that product so much.
I think so for what it's worth, I think it will come back. And Liv's role in this will be more about exposing data that modders can do stuff with, as opposed to being the provider of Game Changer. So like we want to expose the hooks for this stuff, but doing it in a way where we're not, changing what our business does from a primary focus perspective, I think is important. And figuring that balance out is tricky.
I see. Oh, cool. Very, very interesting details. Thanks for sharing.
It is nice to have a little background on that.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, cool. In some ways, I'm a little bit sad that it's paused, because I think that stuff, it's high visual impact. It's so exciting. And, when you get a spate of donations and things like that, it can like change up the mood of a stream.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a personal experience I had not even 2 weeks ago, maybe like a week ago with Game Changer? I was playing with the settings. I turned it up a little bit too high. People noticed. people seriously started taking advantage of it. And for damn near an hour, there was an endless bitty phoenix flying in the sky, and I could barely play Beat Saber, and people just absolutely loved the fact that they were crippling my gameplay, you know. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It was insane how long the moment lasted, but like, people enjoy having the ability to fundamentally break things in an interesting way live, you know. And I would love to see more of that.
Yeah, that, of
with
course.
The potential to
that's that's totally core of streaming, the interaction with the viewers. And yeah, maybe Ru, you want to tell us about your streams, because you're streaming yourself as well.
I do, yeah. Well,
on a regular basis.
On a semi-regular basis. I'm actually quite sad at the moment because I broke my Knuckles controller.
Oh yeah, I saw that tweet. It's they lasted for 2 years, right?
These are design validation controllers, meaning
so actual
these were sent to us. Yeah, back when they were called Knuckles. Yeah. So first things first. I stream basically avatars only. I play a lot of Beat Saber. I play a mod called Claws Mod, where the sabers. I have something very cool to show you. Where the sabers are 30 centimeters instead of a meter.
Right.
It's a much bigger physical workout. I love it. I've been playing that mod for almost 3 years exclusively, and I broke my Knuckles controllers playing that mod. So I don't know if you know this, but this strut that attaches the circular part of the Knuckles controller and to the tracking arc is actually aluminium. It's made of metal. And I managed to smash one of my controllers into it during an intense play session, and it cracked right through the middle of it.
I saw your pictures, and I had to send my controllers in as well, because they do have the metal ring, the Knuckles. And if you smash them together, which can totally happen in Beat Saber, a clap, I was having the same crack below the trigger as you were showing. And
that one happened in Gorilla Tag, actually.
That game is so hilarious. Yeah, but what I was referring to, I had that same issue. I don't know where I hit it, but I think it was with a metal ring on that part, and it pushed the plastic into the trigger. So it was like blocked, and the trigger was blocked for a moment. I could pull it out again, but that was the part where I was about to send them in, especially as the substick was behaving strange. It was always tilted, even though physically it was not. And mine lasted for about 2 years as well, and then a little bit less, like 1.5. Yeah, but I had to send them in. Luckily, I got they were replaced by Valve.
I sent Valve a message about these ones, but they said, yeah, they're validation hardware. We can't replace them.
You validated them.
You're right. I'm
going to go grab something, but I can still hear you.
I am embarrassed to say that I have RMA'd 3 index controllers, and all 3 of them were due to violence I committed against them. There wasn't issues with the thumbsticks or anything like that. Like, I destroyed 3 different index controllers.
So what I took now precautions. So you can get some 3D printed bumpers for the metal rings. That helps a lot. And of course, if you are sweating a lot with your hands, you can apply the tennis grip stuff around it, and that helps a lot. So far, my replaced controllers still look like new, even though I clapped them, but the bumpers on the metal rings, they really help.
I just got a brand new set like 2 months ago, and they're already banged up. Sorry.
These ones are battered, but you've seen the photos of it. I had something to show you. Before COVID, I planned to do a Beat Saber inspired cosplay. So I bought the materials I needed to make a life-size, as in hitbox-sized, physically IRL Beat Saber saber. I have 2 of them. I have one of them here. This is 1 meter long. Because that's how big the hitboxes are in Beat Saber.
Wow.
So mixed reality is not then mixed reality anymore because you have physical sabers? Okay. I see.
Basically, yeah. I actually have a video lying around somewhere of me comparing this with the actual in-game sabers, and they're exactly the same size. It's so cool. But these are huge. Awesome. Like trying to play Beat Saber physically with one of these is like, it's heavy, heavy.
Can you do those streams? Yes.
Not a chance. That's as fast as I can go. This is my vibro. It's not.
Remember, they're lightsabers, not polycarbonate sabers.
So we have a question in chat from Egg Fried Cheese. He's asking, with regards to streamer kits, Twitch just recently made a change to the /me command where they are not changing the color anymore. And will that not change in streamer kit? Can you commit to that?
We're not going to touch it. We're not going to change it.
There you have your answer.
No, don't worry about that. We're not trying to copy Twitch one for one. We'll leave it.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Those are very cool sabers. Yeah, that has also been something. I mean, if you see people from outside playing Beat Saber, you can totally recognize from the movement they are doing, yes, they are playing Beat Saber. And it looks so ridiculous. Now imagine them having the real sabers in their hands. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if they were swinging around real sabers every once in a while, they might reconsider the way they swing sabers in Beat Saber.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I stopped doing the PP chasing, arm flailing thing, and I try and be as big and dramatic with the swings as I can. Because come on, we're trying to pretend to be Jedi here. Let's pretend to be Jedi. Let's pretend to be Sith.
The difference, though, is the Jedi still have only a controller in hand. The other stuff is only light. It doesn't have any weight.
Right. So, I mean, controllers are close weight-wise.
I mean, at least they got it. I'm not a super fan of the of vibro jump mapping, but then again, I'm speaking from my claw's perspective, so like, I suffer.
That claw mod is pretty awesome. When I started with the HTC Vive playing Beat Saber with the Vive Vans, and after a while you realize, the normal way you hold the Vive Vans, it's not the best way to play Beat Saber. So you're taking, after a while, a different grip. And then you get
a death grip because of the taper. You're like swinging on it, and the momentum makes you squeeze the controllers harder so they don't fly out of your damn hand.
Stuff like that,
Such a poor
indeed.
design decision.
And then you get the knuckles, and you realize, those angles they have, they are not
exactly
well.
Right.
And I was changing the angles already, and then Claw Mod, I think, was released, and I realized it's more or less the same angle I'm using for playing with the knuckles, and that's very convenient. It's not exactly the same, but pretty close. So I was using, I think we have been asking about the rotation and the angles for the Claw Mod. Because with that, I think it's even better to play Beat Saber. Because then it's like Wolverine. You have the claws coming out of your back of your hand. But if you are holding the controllers like this and stretching out your finger, having the saber coming out the same angle, that's way more convenient, at least in my opinion. So
it encourages you to keep your wrists straight, which cuts down on the strain massively. Like that's the biggest reason why I care about claws is just like it keeps because you're incentivized to keep your wrists straight.
Indeed, that was my intention as well. You are clapping the blocks from top. You're not like doing it by tilting your wrists. No, you are clapping them. Something like that.
You must pet the blocks.
Yeah, touch them gently,
So are you saying claws and golf mod go hand in hand? We're going to have to get Nate involved in this?
I think it's claws and support in versus mod.
Yeah.
I'll see you on the leaderboards.
Claws golf. Let's go, guys. Get some reality check up in here.
And we got another question from Nina in chat. Can we please see where the camera is in VR mode without having to be in LIV config mode or having to tie the viewfinder to it? Just like a green transparent cube in the sky or something small so I can tell where to face when talking to the audience?
Absolutely. That's a great feature request. It's going to be a thing.
Okay.
I can't promise when, but that's a great idea, especially for, some of the ideas that we've got with like having fully choreographed cameras. There's some really cool experiments people are already doing with that.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to have like a green dot or something that just represents where the camera is critical, even if it doesn't have a viewfinder on it.
With everybody who are daydreaming about bullet time in mixed reality, let's. Oh,
what's going to happen?
I've got a mess of cameras. Let's make this happen.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Are there more questions from chat? Are there active plans for adding more commands through the custom URI scheme? Would love to use that for channel points rewards.
Good question. If you've got any ideas on like commands to add, chuck them into the feature requests channel in Discord. Not closed off, but we don't have any like direct plans to add more to that interface. We're kind of like hoping to do the more modern one before expanding the other one a ton. But if you've got any specific requests, they might be easy. So, yeah.
Oh, do you know if there's been any work to get the wiki back up? Because I noticed that the old wiki, not back up, but some of the stuff that was on the old wiki isn't there anymore, like the URI commands in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing managing that isn't entirely your bag, but
I'm kind of involved in it. Like, I mean, yeah, I can comment on it. The old wiki had two things that I would love to republish. The URI scheme commands one is planned. I think there's actually a hidden article that documents them already that just needs to be published somewhere. And the other one was the camera effects stuff. So I'm not sure if you know this, but LIV's shaders are like, they're just regular GL shaders. If you want to go in there and play with them, it's actually trivial to do so. And like the fake lighting effect that we pushed, that's very tweakable if you open it up.
One of the reasons why I love fake lighting. I got it balanced just right, that it is just like, I think Rage Sax looks a little cleaner than mine, but still, oh my God, thank you again. I can't wait to see what you guys do with these features in the future.
No, thank you.
So we have some questions now again from Nina. What's the time frame for custom camera paths to be added to the interface? I think you said, it's in the works, but...
So, yeah, it's kind of like, strictly speaking, it's possible if you're a developer right now to do it, right? You can make a camera plugin, you can have your camera path, and you can animate it. It would be relatively easy to do that too. There's like a Unity workflow where you could create an animation curve in Unity and then maybe export it and have LIV play it back. As for it being integrated into the interface, there's no timeline for that at the moment. No, there's no timeline for like an official camera path tool at the moment. We are thinking about it though.
Okay, the second question is, are there plans to add more than the second camera view in avatar mode? Can we have like 4 or 5 or whatever our system can handle? Or could it support dual composited views so both or more cameras can show the game and avatar rendered view? We've been talking about that before, but let's recap that.
Sure, yeah. So I think there's two things mentioned there. There's like having multiple views of just the avatar and then having multiple views of the avatar and the game. The former is very, very doable, and the only challenge is interface. So like maybe we won't do it for a while because we can't figure out a clean way to do it that doesn't make things more complicated. Maybe it's possible that we'll add it as a config option. So like you can do it through a config file instead of through the UI, but it's then possible that way. No commitments to that, but like if there is enough of a demand for it and there's like a use case for it that makes sense, then we'll do it. Is the simple answer to that. I think what we have right now with the 2 cameras is a nice balance so that at least you can do it. But I know where you're coming from, Nina. As for multiple composited cameras, it's tricky. The resource use doesn't scale very well. So making it possible, it just means we're writing code for something that very few people will actually take advantage of. And so like we don't have a timeline for it. And we have so much stuff that we need to do before that. So we'll see. It's not something that we can just switch on and expect to work well. So that makes it something that we just have to think about before we do it.
from Bol, we have a question. Is the fake lighting automatically on when using a virtual avatar? I only found it possible to pick as an effect when using a camera.
You should be able to do it for both. There's no distinction between avatars and cameras for that effect, because I use it with my avatar, so I know it works.
Liffy wants to know if you'll hire a derpy artist because apparently she wants to move to Canada.
I mean, it's not out of the question, but I think we're all covered on the art side right now. Keep an eye out. Like we're.
Aren't you guys looking for a community manager or something? Liffy, come on.
We have another question from Goji. He or she has had performance issues recently with LIV. Is there something under the hood that changed? Better processor, but performance is laggy. Does AMD have an issue with it?
Good question. We recently did push a change to all branches of LIV that changes how we do rendering. On the vast majority of machines that we've tested it on, it actually reduces overall overhead. But we also need to know about these cases where it's done the opposite. So what I'm going to ask you to do is send us a ticket on help.live.tv. We will collect information and figure out why it's not running as well. The other thing that I would suggest is launch your game with LIV, see if that fixes it. But basically what I'm saying is it should be running faster. If it's not, we will figure it out.
Thank you very much for that answer.
That there was an old Discord community post that was resurfaced recently. I think it was Cypher Orion was sharing it about the concept of launching the game with the compositor. Straight from the horse's mouth. Can you tell us exactly why that is a good idea?
Yeah, easy. So when you hit launch with LIV, sync and launch, what that's actually doing is it checks to see that the version of the SDK that's inside the game's install folder is the latest one. And if it's not the latest one, it will update it. So that means you can get you'll get like all of the performance improvements that we've been working on. We don't do this automatically for all games until you launch them, just kind of as a performance saving measure. So just launch it with LIV and you're good. If you launch from Steam, LIV will capture it, but it might be an older version of the SDK, so you might actually have performance issues or bugs.
Here you go, folks. You heard it from Rue. Sync and launch.
Right on. Launch. Yeah, but I guess that concludes our today's talk. If do you want to tell us a little bit more, or is there something you want to share with us, Rue, before we recap?
Is there anything that I want to share? I think we've touched on like a lot of stuff, actually. A lot of stuff that's really relevant to like this audience. So I don't think I have anything specific left to share other than I don't think anybody's ready for what LIV is going to no idea in the next year.
Oh,
bold
teasers,
bold words.
You guys have no idea how excited I am about it.
Even bolder words.
I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to that
excited.
a lot.
What the hell? What's in the box?
There's just a lot of really small things that are going to add up, and I think LIV has an amazing team, and like you've only seen like little bits of it. We haven't flexed yet. LIV hasn't flexed yet.
Whoa.
That sounds great.
LIV has not flexed yet.
That's the name of the stream right there. Great. LIV hasn't flexed yet.
Okay. We got our title. Right on. So yeah, let's bring this to an end. And let's talk about the socials we have. So you can watch Crindash on stream on twitch.tv/Crindash as well as twitter.com/Crindash. And we have Rue also on Twitter as Ruirize, twitter.com/Ruirize, as well as twitch.com/Ruirize. And we have also FeVR on Twitch and YouTube, even though the YouTube link is not a branded one, so that channel will be in the description or so. But twitch.tv/team/FeVR and Twitter @TeamFeVR. There you can find us. If you have any comments, questions, whatever, reach out to us. We have a Discord, discord.gg/FeVR. join us there. Let's talk about all the things VR. And I say thank you very much to Grindesh for co-hosting.
Thank you. And don't forget our host, Corbin78. Follow him on Twitch and Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
If you like. You see all things Linux and VR. If you like to see that. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, Ru, for joining us today. That was a very interesting talk. Many details we got here. And we're looking forward to see what LIV does when it's flexing. Right on. Thank you so much for watching.
Joining us, Ru. Awesome time.
It's been excellent being here. Thanks for the fun conversation.
It was really much fun. Yeah, then we will have the next cast in 2 weeks, I guess. Until then, have a nice weekend and bye-bye.
Take care.